Nature of Society Part 1 Session 2R. For those who are here for the first time, welcome to Unsustainable Development. My name is Nigel Gittins, your presenter of this course. As stated last week, Unsustainable Development is a not-for-profit educational charity that offers courses on the nature of society and the nature of man. This course, Nature of Society, requires no prior knowledge or qualification. All that is needed is a willingness to participate and to observe the phenomena discussed in the course in the outside world. The course will take the form of presented material from which there will be frequent opportunities for review, questions, and observation. Each session will be approximately 20 minutes. Sessions will be held once a week, and this Part 1 will be 10 weeks in duration. There are no certificates to be gained upon completion of the course. You are free to make your own notes, and the replay of the session will be emailed to you. If you have questions, please feel free to ask by emailing to nigelgittins@gmail.com, and a response will be given to you. The presenter has been a student, teacher, and avid reader of the subject for the past 37 years. He is the author of 4 books. Now on to the study of the nature of society. We can agree that there are 5 elements in creation that man must have access to in order to survive. These 5 elements are earth, water, air, fire, and space. We also agree that each of these 5 elements are freely given to man by the Creator. We agreed that A, water was freely available except for the cost of purifying and transporting to homes and other places of human activity. B, that air was freely available, but it was becoming increasingly a premium to get fresh air. C, that sunlight was freely available. D, that space was freely available except for limits placed on those who were imprisoned. But E, earth in the form of those habitable lands were not freely available. Focusing for now on the earth element and those valuable habitable lands, we can conclude that 1. Land was the substratum upon which all human performance takes place to display all human talents and satisfy all human desires. 2. The raw materials that are of value to man are not located equally throughout the earth. This gives rise to certain lands being of higher value in the society than others. 3. In terms of convenience to man, certain lands are more convenient to carry out specific economic activities than others. This gives rise to these lands being more valuable than others. And again, an example of this would be this schematic diagram of a wealth profile of a city, a port city near the sea, where we first have the commercial sites adjacent to the port, which are highly valuable. And then comes the residential sites, which are both urban and suburban, which have lesser value. And then as we move further inland, we have the industrial sites, which is of lesser value. And then the least valuable will be the agricultural sites. And beyond these sites are lands that are not under any production of any kind. But in between these lands, we have a number of vacant sites, which we will talk about shortly. So with this schematic diagram above, which depicts more or less the situation at present, is the physical landscape for any coastal city port to remote lands inland. This diagram shows that the many tall buildings adjacent to the port are on the most valuable sites, reflecting the economic product or rent potential at these locations. And as you go further inland, this economic product or potential reduces. Throughout this landscape, it is noticed that these valuable sites have adjacent to them many sites that are held out of production or are unproductive or underproducing. If one desires to purchase any of these sites, they could only be had at a premium price. It is suggested that these vacant and unproductive sites hold the key to solving the unemployment problem and the lack of purchasing power with the employed. It will solve the challenge of providing the means where men could have all their talents expressed and desires satisfied. We now introduce the concept of the communal due, which would be a land value or site value tax on all valuable sites that would force those sites onto the market. We say that this land value tax was justifiable because the economic rent or product produced at these sites were as a result of the demand and patronage placed on them by the community and not created by any activities, past or present, carried out by the site occupiers or landlords. We now ask you to have a look at your own community to see whether what is offered here reflects in the observations made here. What do we find? Let us have a short break now. And in this short break, I introduced the 4 books that I have authored over the years: Sustainable World, On Development, Nature of Society, which is the book of what this course is all about, and then Wisecracks for a Good Life, all for good reading material, and all are available at Amazon.com, and it is fairly, priced, economically priced. So have a go, have a purchase of it, and read some good material. So in this second part, we have this schematic diagram of the desire or spirit in humans with knowledge and work on the raw materials of the earth produces products that satisfy the talents and desires of human beings. It's a very simple diagram, but very meaningful. Desire or spirit with the raw materials, using man's knowledge and man's labor and tools and machinery, produces the products, goods and services that satisfy his talents and desires. So this is how wealth is created in the society. So for this purpose, we are looking at the first of 2 diagrams here. The second diagram is this diagram, which is of the man-made world, which comprises man's work on land and the conditions at the point of interaction of this work on land produces the man-made world that we have. More on this as we go forward in the course. The creation of wealth to satisfy the talents and desires of all men is a simple process. It's that the desires, talents, and spirit in man, coupled with specific knowledge, science, technology, etc., and work on raw materials, produces all the products that satisfies all his desires and needs. The second diagram is much simpler, but more profound. It says that man's work on land produces the man-made world. The work includes all desires, talents, and technology. The land includes all the raw materials, resources, and capital. The interaction of man's work on land is very dependent on the conditions at the point of interaction. If conditions militate against these two coming together, which is man's work and land, then the man-made world would look very different from that where conditions do not militate against them coming together. This is evident when one looks at various countries around the world. It is to these conditions at the point of interaction that this course devotes itself to in large part. Let us consider for the remaining moments in this session these questions. What are the conditions that militate against the coming together of man's work on land? What conditions would encourage the coming together of work on land? Is the coming together in greater amounts man's work on land the direction of the solutions to the challenges in society? Is the coming together in greater amongst man's work on land the direction of the solutions to the challenges in society? We close this session by looking at a statement on wealth made by Henry George, an American socio-economist of the late 19th century. And Mr. George says, when we speak of a community increasing in wealth, we do not mean to say that there is more land, or that the natural powers of the land are greater, or that there are more people. For when we wish to express that idea, we speak of increase in population, or that the debts or dues owing by some of these people to others of their numbers have increased. But we mean that there is an increase of certain tangible things having an actual and not merely a relative value, such as buildings, cattle, tools, machinery, agricultural and mineral products, manufactured goods, ships, wagons, furniture, and the like. The common character of these things is that they consist of natural substances or products which have been adapted by human labor to human use or gratification, their value depending on the amount of labor which upon the average would be required to produce things of like kind. The statement is taken from Progress and Poverty, very famous book, and I will just read it again for greater clarity. When we speak of a community increasing in wealth, we do not mean to say that there is more land, or that the natural powers of the land are greater, or that there are more people. For when we wish to express that idea, we speak of increase in population, or that the debts or dues owing by some of these people to others of their numbers have increased. But we mean that there is an increase of certain tangible things having an actual and not merely a relative value, such as buildings, cattle, tools, machinery, agricultural and mineral products, manufactured goods, ships, wagons, furniture, and the like. The common character of these things is that they consist of natural substances or products which have been adapted by human labor to human use or gratification, their value depending on the amount of labor which upon the average would be required to produce things of like kind. During the week, use your powers of observation to see the phenomenon of man's work on land, from the most rudimentary to the most sophisticated. See where man's work on land is at its most optimum, and if not, what is hindering this? Have a look at the conditions at the point of interaction between land and labor and see what is at play there. And if you are part of a live stream chat on Facebook, these questions can be investigated fully. Have a great week.